What's up, Archihacks fam? Welcome back to our channel today. As you already know, my name is Tommy. I'm the editor and writer for Archihacks. And today we're going to talk about 6 design habits that you need to stop right now. So our first bad habit we're going to talk about today is sleep deprivation being the norm. Now, our team at Archihacks really encourage you not to do all-nighters and to really get your sleep in. We advocate for getting healthy rest so that you can be a good designer and also live life to the fullest. We're just not here to design and do work and be perfect. We really want to enjoy life and experience architecture. So if you're tired all the time, or you can't even just go out the day and see architecture, take a picture there, really see what design is like, then what's the point, right? And although it can happen in the workforce too, where there's deadlines coming up, your team's relying on you, and you need to stay up a little later just to do some work, that's okay. I think the most important part that people might find themselves that causes sleep deprivation is that they are overworking themselves. Maybe they're not asking for the work, but your management is giving you work. And so that's an important question between you and your management to understand what is your workload, what can you work with, what can you not. And that's very important for you to get to know very early on in your career so that there's a healthy relationship between the employer and the employee, aka you and the firm. And so I'd like to point out that even though you might not find yourself taking on additional work because of management, but you yourself are taking on additional work, that has to be very careful because you do want to maintain a healthy lifestyle of setting time for your personal relationships, your professional relationships, and just your day-to-day life. And so when you're taking on too much work, this could turn to workaholism. You know, one of the last reasons for sleep deprivation is this really unique notion called bedtime procrastination. The idea is that when you're working all day and you rarely have time for yourself, like you wake up, you eat breakfast, you put on your clothes and you dress up and you get ready to work, and then you greet your team members and you work all day, 8 hours, you have your lunch break, and you're just working. Where's the time in it for yourself? And the only time you find that is at night. So the idea of bedtime procrastination is that at the end of the night, when you're winding down from bed, that's your time. So then you end up taking hours on your phone, watching TikToks, Netflix, any social media platform you can think of, YouTube, whatever that pleases you at night, and you end up doing that for hours instead of getting sleep. That's the principle behind bedtime procrastination. And I'm guilty of it, and a lot of members of our team at Archihacks are guilty of it. It's definitely important to, set those time out for yourself, but also at the same time, recently go to bed. You definitely want some rest for work. And so our second bad habit that we need to stop right now is overly successful or achievement focused. Now, all stages of life, there's some level of competition, and in design school, it's the same. But in design school, it's a little bit different because, competition can breed innovation, challenges with your peers, pushes you to your design limits. And that's all good in school. But unfortunately, it does create this fixation on success or the merits of achievement that you might not get in the workforce. Though there are competitions that you can enter with your design, and there are a lot of avenues for that, it's not quite the same. And instead of being competitive in the workforce, you're actually more collaborative. You come to realization that firms help each other out in terms of project specifics, niches, and they all lend a helping hand to create good design. If you find yourself very in this success achievement focus, I highly suggest that you take a step back and realize it is a team effort, and there's always not just one successor. To add on to that, it's not uncommon to find students falling in love with the idea of a master architect. The one we learn in history class, the one we learn in media, the one who designs everything, thinks of the structure, thinks of urban planning, site planning, just all that jazz into one. As much as we love that idea of being able to control and design large aspects of our world, today there's a lot of these professions broken down where we have landscape design, we have interior designs, we have structural engineers. And breaking down that kind of nature of the master architect, we're able to learn about each other, but we also have to work with the team. And working with a team, it's not always 100% success rate. There's going to be times when one team member falls, there's going to be time when you fall. And so they kind of help pick each other up, which is really helpful in the workforce because There's just so many moving parts when it comes to creating architecture. And you'd be surprised, with the right leadership, you might get something bigger than the sum of its part. And it can be challenging to let go of control, especially with work, especially how we've come to our education system in school. But believe you all-stars got it and are able to let go and just trust your team members. And the third bad habit we're going to talk about today is perfectionist tendencies. Now, it's definitely very common to find yourself with perfectionist tendencies, and I think some degree is just with design people in general. Kind of this obsession of for improvement can be an excellent way of honing your skills, pushing design innovations, but at the same time being too perfect can actually limit you. You could be over designing, and it could be problematic in terms of what is feasible for that project scope. And unlike design school, where you have total control of your conceptual project, and when it comes into industry workforce, you don't. That's just the nature of architecture at times, when we do have to follow these legal codes that dictate our design. But we can have a little flexibility in terms of design. That's the fun part about architecture. We do still have to adhere to those rules. And, after a jurisdiction or, learning that your design can work, it can be a disheartening experience. And trust me, I know. But it's definitely a good learning experience. And if you do find your design relying on a lot of variables that you just can't pinpoint, it might be a good sign to go back to your design and check what's wrong with it, or check what you need to update so that there's less variables and more fixed things so you don't have to change as much. But perfectionism can lead to overthinking, and overthinking can mean to inaction. And whether you're in school, whether you're out of school, you're working, inaction is never a good thing. Sometimes you just have to jump in there, learn what you got to do, toss out your answers, figure out what works, what doesn't work, and go back to it. And then that's just a part of the design process. And the fourth bad habit we're going to talk about is sticking to one style or one task. In school, having that one scheme, one style is really beneficial in terms of visual clarity, in terms of portfolio. That helps employer and people who are looking at your portfolio to understand what's really going on through your mind. And they're not really jumping over obstacles trying to figure out, what am I going to get next? Now, we're not saying to detract or try new things. That's quite the opposite we're saying. We're saying that you definitely want to open yourself to more opportunities and try out different things to see what works and show that what works and what doesn't work. And actually, we extend this much further by saying you could only excel at one task, whether that's rendering, construction documents, coordinating consultants, project management. Although those are good, you also have to be very careful about pigeonholing yourself. And pigeonholing is the idea that you will stick to one role and one task because you're good at it, and everyone comes to you to do it. And that's very dangerous for your design future, because as an employer, anybody will want a well-rounded employee to navigate through the entirety of the architecture process. When you're only good at one thing, it's hard for an employer to visualize how you will fit into their team. When their team needs something, you might not be the person they're looking for. And so that's something we don't want to happen to you. A good remedy to go against pigeonholing is talking to your management, seeing what's available. Are there other different projects? Can you experience other team projects? Can you change your team? Can you shadow someone from upper management to see what they do and see if you could want to be in that role? And most importantly, avoid getting comfortable. And I know that's scary. I'm afraid to get comfortable, but I like being comfortable. I think it's quite easy to say people like being comfortable. But at the end of the day, we want you to become a star designer and not become comfortable in what you're doing. And we always want you to excel. And the fifth bad habit we're going to talk about is underestimating time. Oh boy, this is hard. I mean, I'm guilty of this. Everyone's just guilty of procrastination. It's pretty quite common. And like I said, it can get the best of us. And it's quite normal to feel sluggish on day-to-day occurrences, day-to-day tasks sometimes. But it's important to get the ball rolling too by doing small, achievable tasks to get you rolling. That way you're in the mood to start tackling those bigger responsibilities that you need to handle at the end of the day. And it's also quite important to take breaks. You're doing 8 hours of work and you expect not to take a break? That's quite hard to believe. And, we want you to be careful about how many breaks you're taking. Make sure you're taking periodic breaks and actual breaks to really mellow out your brain before you start the next task. At the same time, when you underestimate time, you might overestimate your abilities. With work and school, we have deadlines and dates that we need to be particularly careful of. And so when you're underestimating time, you're overestimating your ability to finish that. And, it's crucial and it's very detrimental when you miss the deadline or do half-baked work and submit it, because that just looks in poor taste on you and your firm. And we don't want that at all. And I think it's very healthy for you to learn how to say no to your management when you do have a lot of work. And that's something I had to learn recently with my job. I would tell my management, I'm sorry, I can't take in my work. I actually have a full load right now. And they're more than accommodating to my situation. And so try to have that conversation with your management and be transparent. It's very important in the workplace to be transparent, because you might be feeling burned out, but also your manager also might be overestimating themselves and they feel burned out. So when you have this transparent, clear, and honest conversations, it just makes the workplace that much better. And the sixth and last habit we're going to talk about is multitasking too much. Emphasis on the too much. In school, we've had studio, our other curriculars, our extracurriculars, our friends, our outings. And so we've mastered this idea that we can multitask so many responsibilities and tasks. That's something we don't want you to overestimate in the workforce. You'll come to realize that a lot of the workforce, there's going to be a lot of information and details that are going to slip through your fingers if you're juggling too many projects at the same time. I'm working on over 10 projects here, and I'm learning how to navigate them at the same time and still get the information where I need to get it and translate the information to who needs to hear it. And, if I'm juggling all at once, 10, and not setting proper time for each project, I'm going to get lost and I'm going to have to sit down and talk with management. We don't want that to happen to you. I definitely don't want that to happen to myself. So what we're saying here is it's natural to work on multiple projects in the office or in the industry, but make sure you set out time per project. 30 minutes might be a little short, but it'll still work. I typically work an hour per project and give myself a little time between to transition between each project so that I'm making sure I meet all my projects. I'm following up on all my projects through my project managers, and I'm getting the information relayed to who needs to hear it so that I can keep moving it forward. And that's a very important kind of skill and practice that you're going to learn slowly if you haven't already. All right, Archihacks fam. Well, you reached the end of the video, and I really hope you enjoyed the topic today. And if you did have any comments, go ahead and write them below. And if you really like our channel, go head over to our Instagram and subscribe. If you have any questions and ideas, whether it's in the comments, in our Instagrams, we're welcome and open to hear them all. Because at the end of the day, we want to share with you. We want to make you guys better designers and actually make architecture more relatable through us. If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel, please. And thank you.